Oh yes, welcome. So today we're doing if else statements. So I want us to look at this question. This is a exam like question you would expect in a C++ programming. So it says the municipality of a small town needs a program to calculate the amount payable for water consumption for each business. The rate depends on the number of units of water that was used. The first 20 units are free. A fixed rate of 10 C++ per unit. So this is a fictional currency here, C++. A fixed rate of 10 C++ per unit is payable for the additional units of 40 units or less are used. If more than 40 units but not more than 100 units are used, the cost is 1.5 times the fixed rate for the additional units. If more than 100 units are used, the cost is 2 times the fixed rate for the additional units. Write a C++ program to input the units used as a floating point number. So a floating point number is one of our data types, which is almost works like a double, but yeah, you see as you go on. And to output the amount payable. So let's go into our code blocks and let's try this C++ program. As you know, let's begin with an include and include IO stream. So without include IO streams for input output stream for C in, C out, you see those kind of things. It's IO stream. Then we have our standard using a namespace, our namespace here, std. It's our standard namespace. And then we have our main function or main method. And then if everything goes according to plan, we have to return a 0. So 0. I think I misspelled it. Return. Returns if we close our program. Okay, so let's begin. So our questions clearly says we must have our data as a floating point. We have to store it as a floating point number. So let's start with the number of water units. So we'll have a float. Let's call it units used. As you know, I prefer using a snake casing. Units used. Then you assign another float of the amount payable, which will be the final amount once all the calculations go through. So it's amount payable. But then with the amount payable, we'll initially assign it to 0.0 since it's a floating point number. And then when we do the calculation, it's going to give us the final amount that each business owes to the municipality. Then we're also given a fixed cost. What a fixed cost means, it just means it's a constant because this value will never change. It will keep being that amount. In this case, we have a const which stands for a constant. So it's a const float. Then we just name it a fixed rate. This is like our fixed rate, which is always going to be 10. 10 C++, but let's just say 10.0 since we're working on floats. And if you recall from the question, we said this fixed rate, it is the cost per unit after the free usage. For units which are less than 20 is free, but from 20 upwards. So now we have declared our variables. So let's start with the question. We'll prompt the user to enter the number of water units used. Enter the number of water units used. Let's just put a semicolon and the space, then an end line. And then we have a scene statement for our input. So we have units used. as we declared there on top, unit used, remove the SS unit used. It will go to our console input, which will read the input. Well, guys, I think by now you're familiar with how I do it. I always prefer to use the fail function, and as I've explained before, the fail function ensures that the user will enter the required data type. So in this case, if a user enters anything else besides a float, let's say they put a string or they put special characters or anything, we want to have an error message back. So with my fail function, I'll have an if statement here. If seeing the fail, what is seeing the fail function? It means for the input from the user, if it fails, then what's going to happen? That's about caliber. So within our fail function, within our fail function, we're going to have a message for the user in case they enter anything besides a float. We'll say invalid invalid inputs. Please enter a numeric data type. And we have an end line. So just what line system will do to give an error message to our user in case they make a mistake and put anything besides a float. Yeah, and then now for our next line we have to have a clear function which will clear our error flag since we have an error on top, so it has to clear our error flag for the user to be able to input again the correct data type. So we'll have our clear, which is also a function, and then we'll have a ignore function. With the ignore function, it's going to remove all the invalid inputs. As you know, in case a user enters a wrong input, it will be cleared first and then removed. So we'll have a ignore numeric limits. And the stream size. And a max function. And all of this will be in a new line. /n. Remember to always close the function. So I'm going to use you guys recall we said if everything goes to plan, we have a return 0 here. But then when we get an error, we also want to return any, it could be any value. So let's just return a 1 to indicate to us that there is an error. Return 1. So with the return 1, our program will be exiting with an error. So we will see 1 in case there is an invalid input. Now let's get back to our question. Just outside of our if statement. So with an if else, it's just our conditional programming. So when we have more than one output, then we're looking at different options we have. Like in this question, we know that if our units is less than 20, then what happens if our units is, remember they said it's we will not be charged anything. So the amount payable will still be 0.0 as we have declared on top since it's free. But then what happens if you have more than 20 units? This is where an else if statement comes. It's also a test condition which looks at other options. What other options do we have? We have units being less than or equal to 40. So what happens in this case when units are less than or equal to 40? It's 8, the units being less than or equal to 40. So what happens when the units are less than or equal to 40? The amount payable. Now it's starting to add payable be assigned our units used minus free units, and all of this will be multiplied with the multiplication. We have to use an asterisk multiplied by the fixed rates. Happen. And again, let's close the program. We also have another condition where the units are less than 100. So again, we have an else if. Else if, let's go to our test condition. The unit used. If the unit used, else if the unit used is less than or equal to 100, then what happens? The amount payable. Yeah, we're going to assign it this 23 units multiplied by the fixed rate that we're given initially in our question. And then we will have to add this, so we have a plus to our unit used multiplied by 40. So our units used and minus 40. So people, before we finish up, remember guys, for the first part, 20 times of fixed rate towards it was 23 units multiplied by this, and then the unit used minus 40. The question said between 40 and 100, the fixed rate would be 1.5 times. So basically we're just subtracting that lower part, from the interval. We're already calculating from 0 to 20, 20 to 40, 40 to 100. We have to eliminate anything from 40 downwards. And all of this will be multiplied by the fixed rate, the fixed rate times at 1.5 the fixed rate. So remember we said for units between 40 and 100 to be charged at 1.5 times the fixed rate. And then we still have okay, let's put our curly brackets for the else if statement. Anything within this bracket, it's our okay, yes. Then we have an else. With an else, it's like the last condition. So if everything for the program will follow our if and if else statements, and then once we've done everything, then we'll go to our else, which is the last condition. Let's look at our question again for the last time. Here and it says if more than 100 units are used, the cost is 2 times the fixed rate for the additional units. Now we're looking for these units which are over 100. So the amount payable. So without that condition, the else. So to get our amount payable, we'll first have to have our 23 units multiplied by the fixed rate. Then we add all of this to our 60 multiplied by the fixed rate. But we have to multiply the fixed rate also with the 1.5, since in the question it is clearly stated that if more than 40 units but not more than 100 units are used, the cost is 1.5 times the fixed rate. This is where we get the 1.5 from. So for those who are wondering where this 60 comes from, it said 40 units plus 20 units, it gives us 60 units multiplied by the fixed rate multiplied by 1.5, since only for well, the rate was at 1.5 times the original fixed rate. And then we add all of this. Units it's used minus one, that's units. Because now in this now we're looking for units over 100, so we minus anything less than 100. We're done with the program. Now let's just have our output. To display our final output, we'll have a cout statement. Let's just say the amount payable, the amount payable is, then we'll have our amount payable, and that's our amount payable, which will depend on the user input. But let's remember to put our fictional currency. We say the C++. Okay, so guys, we're done with the question. Now let's run and see if it works. Go to our build and run. Oh, an error, what's happening? See in the now. Oh, so guys, here we have to add a library. So it's going to be include. This is like a built-in library. Include limits. Yeah. Now let's run and see what what happens. Sorry, but we forgot. Yeah, it's my bad. This shouldn't be here. Yeah, so I supposed to run. Why did I say unit? It's supposed to be if unit. Here on top with the kind of float, which was unit used. This is supposed to be unit. So such things happen as we program is also changed in line 27. Supposed to be unit used. In here, please remember to say unit used. Let's check. Oh, I misspelled it. I should have said here fixed rate. But this isn't a thing about programming. It always shows you where you went wrong and where you can fix. Or where you can fix. But in this case, now let's run it. Again, forgot to close. Now let's run. Boom, perfect. So now let's just see. Enter the number of units used. Let's say I used 43. The amount payable in C++ is 200. The amount payable is 245 C++. Good. Let's try to make an error here. Let's say I enter a string by mistake. Invalid inputs, please enter numeric data type. Yeah, so guys, this is how I would answer the question. But then but then again, the next thing about programming, there's so many ways to solve it. So maybe you have a different version. Obviously, you have a different version from mine, which is also a good thing, a positive. Yeah, but this is how I would go about solving questions of the age. Okay, thank you. Bye. Okay, guys. Remember to subscribe to this channel and like the video, share the video with your friends and schoolmates or your colleagues. Thank you. Bye.